This episode of Destructoid is brought to you by Dead Island Riptide. Coming up on Destructoid, oh my god, no way, the Phantom Pain is actually Metal Gear Solid 5, and Destiny might have giant frogs in it, but probably not, and Battlefield 4 has guns and tanks, but also Bonnie Tyler. Forever's gonna start tonight, you guys, right now on Destructoid.
Welcome to Destructoid, I'm Tara Long.
And once upon a time I was falling in love, but now I'm only Max Scoville.
Oh, it works so perfectly.
I think Total Eclipse of the Heart might be one of my favorite songs to quote.
You're wrong if it isn't. I'll just say that much.
Thank you, Tara. Finally we agree on something.
Yeah, so GDC is done, I guess. Yeah, I know.
There's a gun shooting out of my face.
I think we could both use some sleep right now.
Yeah, no, it's been a long week, but we do have a lot of great stuff to talk about, and we also have prizes for you guys. We have 15 Steam codes for Richard, which is a fun little puzzle platformer that came out a couple years ago, but which just got some new DLC this month. We have 15 codes for the DLC and for the game, so we'll be giving those out in little bundles for you, little packets. You play as a spaceman named Richard, who goes around fighting space pirates with his gravity gun and solving kind of gravity puzzles and stuff. The game is currently $10 on Steam right now, so if you do not win it, you can always go pick it up there, and the DLC is only $2. It is a very fun little game. I played a bunch of it when it was on PSN. Richard is voiced by John St. John, who's the same guy who does the Duke Nukem voice, except he does a different voice for this game, so it's infinitely less irritating. To win, you need to get up on Twitter and tweet out, "I'm watching at Dtoid Show" at youtube.com/Dtoid, because they give me prizes for tweeting stuff about them, and we'll send those to you over Twitter. That's how it works. That's the dumbest link we've written so far,
Yep.
I think. But yeah, at the end of the show, we'll get those to you. You just have to make sure you're following us, otherwise we can't send you secret messages or nudes.
Yes, and then life will be terrible.
Tell us about the Bonnie Tyler news.
Yeah, so almost immediately after Tuesday's show went up, Battlefield 4 was revealed at EA's big press event. They have since released 17 minutes of glorious 1080p footage on their YouTube channel in a video entitled Fishing in Baku, and it looks pretty alright. Looks pretty good. This is actually the first gameplay footage we've seen running on the Frostbite 3.0 engine, and I have to admit, when I first saw it, I kind of thought, well, it looks good, but that's not that much better than Frostbite 2.0. But then I actually did a side-by-side comparison, and yeah, this looks way crisper, the lighting is way better, just better all around. By the way, this was all running on a very high-end PC, in case you couldn't figure that out. Surprisingly, DICE chose to showcase footage from only the single-player campaign, despite the fact that the majority of people obviously buy this game strictly for its multiplayer. DICE has said that they're aiming for a much more emotional campaign this time around, which is definitely reflected in the footage that they showed, particularly the first few minutes, but they're also trying to incorporate more multiplayer elements into the single-player game. This includes adding more wide-open areas, as well as more vehicular combat and a bigger emphasis on teamwork. So players will now be able to command their squad to attack enemies, or perform a command call to highlight all of the enemies' positions with orange markers, kind of like how you do in multiplayer. There's also going to be a bit more tactical freedom in how you choose to approach certain situations, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the more wide open areas that they're implementing. So that is the single player in a nutshell. We may actually not get to see any multiplayer until E3, which seems so far away at this point, but it's really not. But the game is scheduled for a fall release on PC, 360, and PS3, with no word on next-gen consoles yet. It seems like it'd be kind of dumb, though, to skip those over, especially since this game is, pretty much there to look good. DICE did, however, confirm that Battlefield 4 is not going to be coming to the Wii U, citing that the platform is too risky and that their time would be better spent focusing on what they do and know well.
Ouch.
So that kind of sucks for Nintendo, I guess.
Yeah.
But
it's exciting for everybody else. Man, that game looks exciting. Looks like living in a powder keg that's giving off sparks.
It's really good looking.
Yeah.
It's really good looking.
All right, so shifting gears, Bungie is still trudging along with their completely ass-backwards reveal of Destiny, in which they've released numerous behind-the-scenes videos and work-in-progress tidbits and developer diaries without actually giving us a big reveal trailer of any kind that sets the tone for the game or any substantial gameplay to give us a sense of what it's like in action, aside from that one 3-second clip of people going upstairs. But I still can't help being stupid dumb excited for this project. During their panel at GDC, which I assume was probably framed as like a post-mortem for Destiny, even though it isn't out yet because that's how they're doing things, creative artsy/designy guys Christopher Barrett and Joe Staten showed off a whole smattering of concept art for Destiny, as well as footage of some character models in motion, and also explained some of the early ideas for the game. Apparently, the original idea for the game was just straight up fantasy, as in like castles and horses and dungeons and dragons and stuff like that. But Bungie, being Bungie, couldn't resist the appeal of sci-fi, so they settled on what they're calling mythic sci-fi, otherwise known as, you know, science fantasy or space fantasy to people who aren't super concerned with buzzwords like mythic that sound badass to teenagers. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be cynical. The whole reason I'm excited about Destiny is that so much of the artwork we've seen is making it look really kind of mysterious and alien, but also kind of whimsical at the same time. I'm getting a very kind of early 80s, like heavy metal magazine kind of vibe, and a little bit like Star Wars too. It's like it's not too concerned with straight realism or believable, you know, speculative fiction elements. They're just kind of doing some cool, weird shit in space. There's this one single piece of concept art right here that has me so excited for Destiny. It's a giant goddamn toad that's covered in goblins. I mean, I can accept that this might just be a leftover from when Destiny was still a fantasy game, but it is a goddamn big toad with goblins on it. And I hope that that's in the game. That could be in space. You don't know what's in space. Bungie doesn't either. I'm excited about this game. I think it's going to be good. Bungie's also saying that the right things, like how they want to evoke the mystery of a fantasy story in a sci-fi universe, like finding ruins of an alien civilization on Venus or excavating lost cities on Mars. I'd say my big hang-up with a lot of sci-fi and fantasy in general, just nerd stuff, is how much information and explanation it gives without just kind of letting people discover things for themselves. Like I think mystery and intrigue are much more exciting, you know, instead of reading a dialogue box or being bombarded with exposition from an NPC. But of course, some people totally aren't into that. But yeah, mystery, intrigue, these are fun things, and if Destiny has them, along with a bunch of people who look like Boba Fett's with sniper rifles, then I'm excited. So Destiny is still a ways off, and we shouldn't be expecting it this year. They've said that they're not really aiming for 2013, but I have no doubt that we will know things about it at E3, I hope, probably.
That frog does look pretty rad. I really
It's
hope
a pretty
that's in the
cool
game.
frog. Dude, it'd be so awesome.
They can't show off concept art like that and not put it in the game. Like,
I mean, they
you've
absolutely
given us too much
can.
now.
They absolutely can. I just hope they don't. Bungie, put the goddamn frog in your game, or I'm just gonna be so mad.
Or -1 point.
Yeah.
All right, so not that this should come as a surprise to anyone, but the Game Developers' Choice Awards were held at GDC this week, and Journey took home pretty much all of them, or at least the ones it was eligible for. So in total, it ended up winning 6 of the 11 awards for Best Audio, Best Game Design, Best Visual Arts, and Best Downloadable Game, as well as the Innovation Award, and finally, Game of the Year. The only award it was nominated for but did not manage to win was the Audience Award, which actually ended up going to Dishonored, which is nice that it didn't get completely snubbed. Elsewhere, Telltale's The Walking Dead took home the award for Best Narrative. Far Cry 3 won Best Technology, and Best Handheld/Mobile Game went to the iOS puzzler The Room. Last but not least, some Subset Games, which are the two guys behind FTL Faster Than Light, which I am currently hopelessly obsessed with, took home the award for Best Debut, as well as a couple others from the IGF Awards, including Excellence in Design and the Audience Award. I actually interviewed both of those guys from Subset at GDC this week, so if you love that game, or like it even, just be sure to watch out for that video on Rev3 Games early next week, because it's going to be a good one. And I also met the guy who made the music, Ben Prunty, and he told me that he liked our show.
Oh, yeah, cool.
That was one of my highlights from GDC.
That's good.
Yeah.
So one game I'm sure will sneak into a lot of people's homes after taking their money is Thief, which is the rebooted version of the stealth game where you steal stuff.
Please apologize
Obviously. Yeah. So we don't have a whole lot of new stuff to show you aside from this very dramatic 30-second teaser trailer that advertises another, I'm guessing, trailer reveal that's happening next week on Tuesday if you're interested. I'm sure it's very exciting if you're a Thief fan or if you just do not like when candles are lit. Take that, candle. waxy bastard. Of course, some people aren't excited about this game because they are hardcore Thief fans, and some changes have been made since previous installments. One of these changes is the addition of a focus system, which, it reveals clues in the environment, a la Arkham City's detective mode, or like Hitman's intuition, or Tomb Raider's survival instinct, or whatever it's called in Deus Ex when everything turns extra yellow. Oh, what do you know? Those are all Square Enix games. What a wacky coincidence. Anyway, Destructoid Steven Hansen got to chat with Eidos Montreal's Nick Canton, who pointed out that the focus ability was presently optional and that players can choose whether or not to use it, but wouldn't go so far as to say whether or not it can be turned off. Now, it's silly of gamers to get kind of upset at this, and it's of course also silly of Eidos not to anticipate this and announce for a more hardcore mode right off the bat, because this is. Stealth gamers, they like to be extra sneaky. They like to be challenged. But then again, just because a feature is in a game doesn't mean you have to use it. Remember that guy who went through Skyrim and just used his fists? That was so dumb.
That's crazy.
This is like what a game with swords and magic. Let me punch people. Anyway, I haven't seen enough of Thief to really formulate an opinion one way or the other. It was being shown off behind closed doors at GDC this week, and I was not in those closed doors. And in addition to the mysterious reveal happening on Tuesday, I have a sneaking suspicion we'll have more information on Thursday as well. Yeah.
You've done so much better, Max.
Sneaking. I'll go back to the Bonnie Tyler jokes.
Why don't we take a second to thank our sponsor, which is actually a real video game today.
Whoa!
And not some website.
An actual real game.
Yes. So Dead Island Riptide is coming out next month, and whether you played the first game in the series or not, there are plenty of reasons to give this one a shot.
Riptide takes the tried and true formula of the original Dead Island and then expands it, allowing players to either start from scratch or import their save files from the first game and continue playing as their character, but with new skills and a new level cap. And in addition to that, there's a fifth playable character, a martial artist named John Morgan, as well as new vehicles, new zombie types, new locations, including a large portion of the island that has been completely destroyed by a devastating monsoon. So you might need a boat.
Yes. So if you guys enjoyed the first Dead Island game, then this one should definitely be on your radar. Dead Island Riptide is in stores April 23rd and available for pre-order now. For more information, just visit deadisland.com.
Back to the show.
Yes.
Okay. So, between our high-speed internet and our microscopic fruit fly attention spans, the news that came out of Hideo Kojima's GDC panel might be considered old now, but I still think it's worth mentioning the announcement of Metal Gear Solid 5. Yeah, okay. So,
I'm excited.
First of all, the Phantom Pain, the mysterious game that we all totally knew was a Metal Gear Solid game, it's the next Metal Gear Solid game. Well, part of it. Surprise, guys. We didn't see that one coming. So, as you might expect with any Kojima production, games included, there's been a lot of talk and almost as much confusion to go with it. But currently, what we know is that Metal Gear Solid 5 will be released in two parts. Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes, which was shown off at PAX Prime last year. That's going to be a prologue to Metal Gear Solid The Phantom Pain. So Ground Zeroes is set almost immediately after the events of Peace Walker and will introduce players to new stealth mechanics, I'm guessing, and a more open real-time environment, and whatever new things they're doing with this game. Meanwhile, The Phantom Pain is going to be set 9 years later after Snake wakes up from a coma. So, spoiler alert, at the end of Ground Zeroes, you probably get your shit messed up. Possibly in some kind of car accident involving pills, if the trailers are any indication, and you lose an arm and you get a hook for a hand. So I'm still pretty unclear how or when these games will be released. Unveiling two games at the same time is, I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't think I've even seen that with movies. They usually, even if they're doing, two projects at the same time, like Lord of the Rings or something, they only show you one at a time. They only reveal that slowly. Kojima recently mentioned that he wanted to see a more episodic approach with video games, but showing off material from both episodes is kind of bizarre, especially if it reveals the ending of one. So during his GDC presentation, Kojima showed a playthrough of the same hospital sequence shown in the Phantom Pain's initial trailer, except in real time and with more grunting and dragging. Showing an on-rails sequence of a one-armed man dragging himself through a hospital corridors, it doesn't really strike me as the best way to show off your open-world game about, tactical espionage action, but Kojima assured everybody that it was from a tutorial segment and that the game opens up later, but god damn, that looks good. In addition to the gameplay, Kojima also demonstrated some more technical aspects of his newfangled FROGS engine, which is pretty goddamn impressive. We've actually got a supercut of the technical mumbo-jumbo. Look at those desks, or that desk, and those chairs. Yeah, you just get to go into the Kojima Productions offices.
That is a conference room if I've ever seen one.
That's very exciting. So we've got a supercut of that over on our Rev3 Games channel, which just kind of gets to all the interesting parts.
I gotta admit, that looks really good. I'm really impressed with what they've done.
Kind of crazy. And if you've got sharp enough ears and you noticed Snake's voice, or what you heard of it, doesn't have David Hayter's trademark gruffness in the Phantom Pain gameplay, that's probably because David Hayter isn't doing the voice, allegedly. Hayter, according to his Twitter, wasn't even asked to return to the role. Kojima commented on this, saying that they want this to feel like a new Metal Gear game, like entirely, and apparently these plans just don't involve David Hayter. But, you know, hey, remember that time a few months ago when Kojima just fabricated a game studio and pretended that the Phantom Pain was being made by Moby Dick Studios, and then last week he hired some random Swedish guy to cover his face with bandages and go on Game Trailers TV, pretending to be the CEO? I mean, I can understand, you know, Kojima wanting to try something new, but I mean, maybe he does crazy stunts here and there. I don't know. I actually do have a theory about this. It's entirely possible that maybe Solid Snake is going to make an appearance in 5 at some point, and Kojima wants somebody else to be doing the voice acting for Big Boss, so that if they do meet each other and kind of square off, it's not as confusing. Maybe Snake, like old Snake, Big Boss, is going to get like a rusty voice or something, and David Hayter wasn't gruff enough for that.
Maybe.
Anyway, Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes and Metal Gear Solid 5.1 The Phantom Pain are currently slated for release on Xbox 360 and PS3, though I will believe that when I see it, especially considering that there's no actual release window announced. So, yeah. That's that, man. I'm still confused about this. Like, welcome to Metal Gear.
It's so weird that he announced that one was a prequel to the other on his Twitter, and it wasn't like an official thing. Like, everybody's so confused about this, and he's like, why are people confused? And
have you played your games?
Yeah, it's strange.
Nano machines.
So one last thing before we get into questions, I just want to let you guys know that Revision 3 has released their official Xbox Live app, which means that those of you with gold memberships can now watch us on your big screen Xbox televisions, which I guess technically you could do before with YouTube, but this is probably still worth getting, especially if you watch multiple Revision 3 shows. And there is Kinect voice navigation if you're lazy. So I'm gonna definitely hit this up.
Just shout out garbage at your TV and see if we show up.
I'm gonna go home and watch us.
Oh, that's kind of cool. That's exciting for me. I mean, I do like those thumbnails. I did like a bunch of those, and then I see them on an Xbox thing. That's super neat.
We are on the computers.
Internet. Okay.
So we've got some questions. Let's see. JBro1806 asks, most impressive indie game at GDC? I saw some really interesting ones at the Wild Rumpus Party. They had this game called Tenuwana Teens, which is literally it's like they made their own controller for it. It's got it's kind of a South Park style aesthetic. The who?
This is the Katamari guy, right? I think.
Is it?
I think so.
Sure.
Anthony was telling me about this, but.
But yeah, it's basically just like 16 buttons that are all different colors, and you have to press a button. It's really, I can't even explain it.
It
properly.
sounded to me like Twister. Like you have a set of buttons you have to do, but you're a confused teenager and you have to do a specific command, but the buttons keep shifting.
Yeah.
So they're like, talk to that girl, and you're like, where's the flirt button? And if you push the P button by accident, you'll just pee in your pants and you won't be able to flirt with her. So
that still doesn't really clarify what the game is actually like, but that was cool. They also had a really interesting sort of like artistic game there called Sound Self, which is actually in a Kickstarter right now, and it's basically you chant into a microphone or just say anything, and there's a graphic on the screen that looks sort of like a spirograph or something, and it responds to like the way you talk and sing.
So it's like a next-gen version of talking to a fan?
A game for people who like drugs. And then I didn't see it on the show floor, but everybody was saying that Kentucky Route Zero is amazing.
Oh yeah, no, get the demo of that, guys. Just go track that down. Like, I think that's for Mac and PC, but it's that's a weird game. I like it.
Space Team.
Oh, get that on your phone.
You don't have Space Team for iOS yet?
Get that on your iOS phones.
Is it on Android?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. It's on iOS though, and you should definitely get it.
I threw that piece of garbage in the garbage. Let's see, we got a good question. Wow, I hate Walgreens says, I hope they make the box for Battlefield 4 edible. Nick, stop picking things that are just weird statements. We want questions. It's Q&A, not just weird statement time.
Nick is still drunk from GDC,
This is pretty good, though. Dova Kiwi says, I actually met Bonnie Tyler at a gas station once. She was really rude and pushed in line.
Pushed in line?
She probably really, I don't know why, I guess there's a line at the gas station. But I guess she really needed it tonight and needs more than ever.
I was
right.
trying to think of a joke, but I just
no more
couldn't
Bonnie Tyler
formulate
jokes.
it. All right, I'm afraid that is all the time we have for today's show. As for the winners of our Rochard contest,
Do we have
we
the
will
winners?
get in touch with you through Twitter
wait,
to
what's
give
this?
you your codes.
We can shout your names into a thing right now? Okay, here, you ready for it? Listen up real carefully. We've got Dripping Sins, ew. Teh_Tommy, Wikus Radin,
I knew this was a bad
Pinatron,
idea.
Kid Rock 93, yes. Dance Floor, Alicia_Jones, JC Mendoza _, Liquid_Raven, stop with the underscores. Jonathan Pedroza, Crossbred 900, Spala McEwen, Bekier, Carsalau 72, and Peterson.
Wow.
Work on those usernames.
If you recognized your name at all, then
if it didn't just sound like I was having a stroke, then you won.
and even if it did, then you might have still won. Make sure you check your Twitter messages, and also make sure that you follow us so we can actually message you your code. And hey, why not follow us both while you're at it? Because if you're on Twitter anyway,
we really need it.
Makes sense, and we desperately need it. I am Tara Longest. He is Max Scoville on the Twitter universe. We're going to be back here on Tuesday with a normal, not live program. So have a safe and wonderful weekend.
Don't kill nobody and go to sleep. We love you.